Now, of course, what's unique about these guest categories is that we already know what episodes they've submitted because they're on the ballot. So who are your 6? Who do you think is going to win?
I don't. First of all, I just like to say I don't know why NBC and SNL did not submit Tiffany Haddish. I think it's the word. I think when she wins, it's going to look really bad on them. I understand why they submitted Tina Fey. Lorne Michaels is in the Tina Fey business, and business is good. But they submitted 6 guys and 2 women. And they've had this problem in the past, especially with African-American women, when they could have submitted Taraji P. Henson, but chose not to submit any women for that first season of Empire when she would have gotten in. She had a great episode. Tiffany Haddish made history stepping on that stage as the first comedian, stand-up comedian to host for a female, African-American. But that wasn't enough for her. She went for the wing. She was the best episode of the first half. I do think Jane Lynch is competitive. Tina Fey will get in on name recognition. I think Wanda Sykes is back in. I also think this is where Laurie Metcalf will get nominated. And then I'm not really sure what to do because I would love to see like Maya Rudolph get back in. But I don't know what year Will and Grace thinks it is. But because they submitted Molly Shannon, Blythe Danner. Let's see here. Who else do we have on here? Minnie Driver. She's hilarious on that show. Jennifer Lopez. Jane Lynch. Not going to happen, but that might take away her. It won't hurt her from the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Mm-hmm. Vanessa Bayer. I mean, that's too many people. It's seriously. I get they don't want to hurt people's feelings, but this is not 1999. You need to go. We're going to submit 2 or 3. Because they might have just cost themselves a spot in this category.
Well, if you had to choose one of those 6, or even 2, let's be generous, is there a standout from that crop of Will and Grace? And I'll leave this up to anybody as well who wants to jump in.
I'd go with Blythe Danner, probably, on name.
Yeah. I'd go with Molly Shannon. It's the most physical part.
Yeah, I have Molly Shannon. I think that she's also at the best place kind of in her career to be getting a guest nomination. Like I feel like Blythe Danner is kind of old news for the Emmys.
Mm-hmm. Well, Riley, I mean, take us through your predictions then. What do you differ from Amanda at all in these?
Well, so Amanda, you had Blythe Danner in the end.
Yeah, I have Blythe Danner in 6.
Yeah, so I've got Molly Shannon, and otherwise I've got the same 6 nominees. I don't feel confident about them, but yeah, I can't tell who else is going to get in. I suppose Tiffany Haddish wins, but I hadn't thought that far.
Yeah, I think it'll come down to probably Tiffany Haddish and Jane Lynch, because I think Tina Fey had a B- kind of outing as host, where Tiffany Haddish really went for it. Like she got Kate McKinnon to breaks, and that is not an easy thing to do. That off the cuff joke she makes about grabbing, I won't say it, but cat.
Like I've got Wanda Sykes. She's been nominated before for Blackish. She's also been snubbed before for Blackish. So I don't know. I'm at a loss with this category.
I think they like her enough to keep her around.
I just don't know why we have.
Tom O'Brien, what do you think? I mean, I guess we should note as well that Saturday Night Live has won this award 2 years in a row. Last year for Melissa McCarthy, and the year before that for Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. What do you think? Who have you got in there, Tom O'Brien?
It'll be 3. Tiffany Haddish just went for it. It was one of the nerviest SNL hosting jobs, certainly of the year, and probably in recent memory. And I totally agree with Amanda. They were lunatics not to submit this because.
What do you mean by nervous? Just said I.
Nervous. She wasn't afraid to go for it. I'm only saying that in that sometimes you get first-time hosts who are afraid. Just there's something. All right. who don't want to take it that far because they're afraid of their image. And I think Tiffany Haddish, this is her image. So I agree. Faye was a okay outing, but you're right. He's Lauren's in the Tina Fey business. Wanda Sykes is, I think, always one of the freshest things about Blackish, and it's the one thing that makes me look forward to those boardroom scenes is when she comes in and just stirs it up. Lynch was terrific, and this is amazing.
That episode is almost designed for her to win an Emmy. I mean,
yeah. It's. I think I'm following your exact playbook here. Metcalf, this is. I don't think she's going to make it in supporting actress, but she definitely could get a nomination here, even though The Big Bang Theory is getting on the old side. I think it's
kind of her consolation prize. It's like, we love you. We're going to put you in here because we're not going to give Roseanne a nomination.
Yeah. It's like, thanks. And Shannon, I think, of the two. Blythe Danner's wonderful in it, and I'm a huge fan of her, but Shannon was a little nervy for Will and Grace too. I mean, plopping herself onto a car windshield twice. So
hey, that was Ty Burrell and Emmy. So just throwing yourself on a windshield, that might become the new trend.
Yes.
I want to dive on a car. And I just want to add one more name just so I can put it out there for good faith, since I'm a huge Gilmore Girls fan. I would love for Lauren Graham to be nominated, although I would really appreciate if the Marvelous Miss Maisel wrote her a really great guest spot next season. I'll stop. I'm done.
I was going to mention Lauren Graham, actually.
I'm done now. I just felt like I was betraying my Gilmore Girl.
I doubt you're done.
Well, for myself as well, I loved her in this season of Curb. I thought she was a perfect love interest for Larry David. So, I mean, that would be really great, because I guess she's never been nominated at the Emmys before. She's
never been nominated, and I read an interview with Amy Sherman Palladino, and it will break your heart to hear about how upset she was last year for Lauren Graham, and how she really went out of her way to try and write that final episode of A Year in the Life to get her, and that speech. You've lost a parent recently. It'll get you going.
Well, I think I could see her getting in there, just because, if depending on how big Curb Your Enthusiasm is. I should say that these are usually the guest actor categories are usually the ones where we get about 2 or 3 out of the eventual.
This is definitely the one, and I said this in the Outlander chat, and I'll just say this now before we get going, where yes, it's nice to have the Gold Derby odds, but I would never just pick those 6 people. This is really one where you want to scroll through the names and go, you know what? Lisa Kudrow's a past favorite. They like Grace and Frankie. Okay, I'm going to put her in. One where maybe to play with your points. I'm not saying that to mess everyone's predictions up. I'm saying it honestly. I
could see Amy Sedaris get in for Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Amy Bryan.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. I mean, I've pretty much got the same 6 as everybody else. I've got Tiffany Haddish winning. I've got Tina Fey. I've got Jane Lynch. Wanda Sykes, who was the one returning nominee from last year. Laurie Metcalf, I agree. I think this would be a consolation prize for her for not getting in for Roseanne. And, of the Will and Grace women, I guess it is between Molly Shannon and Blythe Danner. I would give sort of the edge to Molly Shannon because it's a more broadly comedic performance. But I'm like you, Amanda. I'm rooting for Lauren Graham. One person who because
it'll break my heart, but I want to be wrong.
One person who I am going to root for, and I maybe she's still got a shot, but before Roseanne imploded, I think that Estelle Parsons had a really good shot of getting her career first Emmy nomination at the age of 90 years old.
And that's the tragedy of this Roseanne thing, because Johnny Galecki could have won Guest Actor.
Yeah. And but you know what? I mean, it's really going to be interesting to see if Roseanne gets any nominations at all. I don't have it predicted in any categories. But, I mean, there might just be, since it's a secret ballot, you don't have to say who you voted for. There might be enough people who are like, yeah, I like Laurie Metcalf and John Goodman and Estelle Parsons, so I'm going to just give them a consolation vote anyway, because, hey, my vote doesn't matter, right? Which is what
it's just really hard when you're thinking of all the I mean, I would love for them to get past that, but I also think the Trump thing kind of hurts them too, because you know, the minute that show aired and the ratings were so high, and I wish we lived in a world where, you know, this wasn't as political, but I think that's a big that's one big strike. And then you have Roseanne doing what she did, and it's just she really should have known her actions affect others. And
well, let's move on. What do we think about comedy guest actor? This was another category that Saturday Night Live won last year for Dave Chappelle. This year, they've got Bill Hader submitted and Donald Glover submitted.
Isn't it ironic they're in the opposite position? If they both lose to the same person, like if Bill Hader swept or Sterling K. Brown swept, the other person would be like, I hate you so much. Sorry.
Take us through your predictions, Amanda. Tell us who you've got in there.
I think this is one where you, and it's thanks again to Bobby Cannavale, Leslie Jordan, Alec Baldwin, Robert Klein. Let's see here. Oh, Nick Offerman, which frankly, I think of him with Megan Mullally on Parks and Rec. I think it was sacrilege for him to be there. Never mind. Ben Platt, Harry Connick Jr. What are we up to? 6 now?
I lost count at 20.
Yeah, Andrew Reynolds. Yeah. Let's see. I mean, they've got more people on here than SNL. Dan Bukatinsky. Like, that's too many people.
It never makes sense to have more people than there are slots.
Yeah, like they really, really needed, unless that was like their, hey, if you come on our show, we'll submit you. Mm-hmm. But I think this is the one where you go with the Gold Derby 6, probably. Bill Hader, Donald Glover, Lin-Manuel Miranda. He got in last year when he really shouldn't have. He deserves it this time for Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yes. Bryan Cranston. I love Sterling K. Brown doing Andre Brower a favor and doing him a solid and like play. They're so similar he doesn't move in that episode. If you've seen it, to be like completely funny, he's not doing pratfalls. He's not really like telling these one-liners. He's seated and he's just in charge of these two people. And I thought it was hilarious. And then, you know, why not Bob Newhart? But I could see maybe Cat Williams, maybe Will Ferrell. It could get another, or actually, you know who I do have in my 6th place? I just saw his name. Because I think The Marvelous Miss Maisel is going to do better. I think Wallace Shawn, who plays the bad joke writer who's funny, could sneak in.
Riley, I think that's a good suggestion, yeah. Riley, what do you think? Have you got the Gold Derby 6, or have you got a little bit of
like variety? The news thing.
I don't have Bob Newhart. I have Will Ferrell, because I feel like he gave a performance on SNL that was acclaimed, and you know, he's a past cast member and he's known for his comedy. So I think that's sensible, even if it's not widely predicted and he could easily miss. Name that all throughout there is Kyle MacLachlan for Portlandia, because he's probably getting nominated for Twin Peaks this year, and he could be, you know, the Becky Ann Baker or the Leslie Jordan or the Will Forte or the you know, who gets in for the final season, even though he's never been nominated before.
If that happens, it would give me confidence, maybe picking Portlandia to win.
I think it's like when Laurie Metcalf suddenly got in for The Big Bang Theory after getting snubbed so many times, just because she was having a good year. So that's
right. And I mean, if they're checking off his name for Twin Peaks, it stands to reason they could also be checking off his name for Portlandia as well.
Yeah. I'm skeptical of Sterling K. Brown because I don't think they're watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine or care about it. But, you know, John Hamm got in for Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and last year Riz Ahmed got in for Girls, and Matthew Reese got in for Girls. I think they like to see their drama lead actors giving comedic guest performances for some reason.
Tom O'Brien, what do you think?
I think this category is a mess. God. I have Hader in first place, I think largely because of the goodwill and the return of Stefan. But Glover did a great job hosting. doing both duties really, really well. And luckily, it was a very well-written episode. So I have them in the top 2 places. Miranda, yes. I know there's some question about Leslie Jordan. But, I mean, Jordan and Cannavale are the 2 Will and Grace previous winners in this category. And possibly by default, they may, repeat for a nomination at least. Brown, I share your worry about people not watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I sort of have tuned out about it about a year or 2 ago. But he's so well liked, and they see his name. I think
that episode was just from network. They really went out of their way to like promote that episode up to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
really
I do remember that.
Another Fox commercial was watch Sterling K. Brown on Brooklyn Nine-Nine with Andre Braugher. I mean, they really made sure they had articles written about that particular episode where it's like, I wanted to do something with Andre Braugher. It's so important to me to. So I think usually I would agree, but that might.
Yeah, we know. I have him down. I know. I think they're going to pass on Bob Newhart this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of been there, done that. So Glover, Hader, Miranda, Cannavale, Brown, and maybe Leslie Jordan.
Well, I have got the 2 Saturday Night Live guys we've talked about, Hader and Donald Glover. I've got 2 Curb Your Enthusiasms, Lin-Manuel Miranda and Bryan Cranston. And then I do have Brown in there, but I've also got a name that we haven't talked about yet, and that is John Hamm in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. And maybe at this point, that's just wishful thinking on my part, but I mean that he has an entire episode that is
the
devoted,
documentary episode.
Yeah.
He is absolutely brilliant in that. I just maybe it's wishful thinking, but I'm pulling for him. I also am hopeful that Kyle MacLachlan can be this year's Laurie Metcalf, and people remember what a great actor he was. Between this and the 7 or 8 performances that he gave.
And who knows, in 2 years, he could be an Oscar nominee. There you go, Zach.
Yes, indeed, yeah. I do think all of these, I like your Wallace Shawn, Amanda. I think that's really great. I like your Will Ferrell, Riley. I do wonder about all of these Will and Grace submissions. I mean, these are all people who could get in.
I think NBC dropped the ball in letting Will and Grace do this, because seriously, they really needed to say to these showrunners and the producers, the game's changed since you were last in it.
Yeah. Now, if they really love Curb Your Enthusiasm, one person who's gotten into this category on the drama side, who's now competing in comedy, is F. Murray Abraham for Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think that he stands a chance of getting in. It'd be interesting to see if we didn't talk about this in the last category, but if maybe Anthony Anderson and Tracy Ellis Ross can get in for Grownish, if they're watching that show at all.
What network is that on?
Freeform, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. That's what it's called this week.
Yeah, I'm just looking through. How about, speaking of Saturday Night Live people, what about Robert De Niro playing Bob Muller on Saturday Night Live?
That wouldn't surprise me if that one impression got him in.
Yeah.
He's kind of in a resurgence mode. He's got The Irishman, and he was just nominated for a round of awards. So
yeah, he came close to winning his first Emmy last year.
And his performance on the Tonys.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at Robert De Niro right now and thinking like he could be like Melissa McCarthy and just get nominated and win this. Oh God, I might have to put him in there. Like, it just feels like it's too, what they've been doing lately. People, famous people impersonating evil people. Is there anybody that we've
nobody is Alec Baldwin, right? None of us.
No.
Yeah. Although I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. He's he gets nominated all the time. He gets nominated for showing up.
I just don't understand how. I don't get the impression, frankly. I'm just kind of over it, and I think he gets kind of lost in the clutter.
Oh, I was talking about for Will and Grace.
Yeah, I still think he kind of gets lost in the clutter.
Well, with any final thoughts on the comedy categories before we get on to more serious business? Cat Williams in Atlanta, I forgot to mention as well.
Yeah.
If they like Curb Your Enthusiasm, they could go for Steven Weber as the Shucker in the episode titled The Shucker, kind of soup Nazi vibes.
All right, well, let's move over. I should say, I mean, if Cat Williams gets nominated, then I think that'll really Atlanta could then be a formidable challenger to Mrs. Maisel if it's able to translate aside from just Donald Glover. But on that, let's talk about drama guest actress. Excuse me. Now, The Handmaid's Tale won this last year for Alexis Bledel. She is now in supporting. Her co-star Samira Wylie has moved over to guest. They've also got in here Marissa Tomei and Cherry Jones. So, Amanda, what do you think? Can a Handmaid's Tale woman win this again? Who do you have getting into your 6?
I have Diana Rigg. I think she's going to win. I mean, she had the most, she dropped the mic. Tell Cersei it was me. Boom. She won. If you're going to die, that's the way to go out on a show like Game of Thrones. She won. I think she's going to win this, regardless of whether Game of Thrones has a dip in nominations or not. She had the most buzzed about performance this year, that final scene. And again, it's that acting without having to do so much. She doesn't move. She sits down. She drinks that wine, and then she gives that long speech. And it just kind of confirms what we've all known, but she destroyed the Lannister family. Then I have Samira Wylie, Marissa Tomei, Cherry Jones. I have them all getting in. I think Cicely Tyson's good for a nomination. They've always loved her. And then right now I have Pam Grier, because I think on name she could sneak in there. But I worry about someone, and I know everyone's going to tell me I'm crazy, but look out for someone like Alfre Woodard. They love some Alfre Woodard. She has been nominated when she should not have been nominated. And they might not be watching Empire, but this is a category where they name check. But my personal hope is Rinko Kikuchi gets in for Westworld. And, it was a very talked about, even leading up into the season 2, I don't know what it was called, Asian Westworld.
Mm-hmm.
Shogun World.
Yeah, Shogun, yeah.
Serious, but still, I think that's a possibility.
I must say, I mean, if you're worried about Alfre Woodard getting nominated for Empire because they're not watching it, I mean, if you're predicting Cicely Tyson for How to Get Away with Murder, I think
But you know what? Alfre Woodard got in for True Blood. She got in for True Blood, and
she's got a couple Emmys. Yeah, right.
Yeah, she's a favorite.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, I'm
just saying if I was making a list of 10, she would be higher than 16.
Yeah, I mean, if they're voting for just off name alone and not for shows, then I think.
Yeah, I think sometimes they just look at the names and check them off.
Riley, what do you think? I mean, so Amanda brings up she thinks Diana Rigg's going to win, and she's the front runner right now. But
she's the overwhelming front runner, I think.
Yeah, but often in this category we have an overwhelming front runner for one reason or another, and it just doesn't happen. I mean, Game of Thrones 2 years ago, Max von Sydow was the overwhelming favorite to win, and he did not in the end. So what have you got predicted in this category?
Yeah, I did think that Diana Rigg would have won a previous year, but then it, of course, went to Margo Martindale. So I'm not.
Of course.
I don't know if I want to bet on her again, but I do have her in my predictions, along with the 3 people from The Handmaid's Tale that we have in the prediction center. And I also have Kate Burton for This Is Us, because Kate Burton has gotten in for Grey's Anatomy. She's gotten in for Scandal. So it's not like she's tied to one role. It seems like they like her as an actress. And she reminds me of Dennis O'Hare in This Is Us last year, where he didn't do anything, she didn't do anything this season, but they like the actor and they like This Is Us, and that's good enough. Finally, I don't have Cicely Tyson because she was nominated previously for this role, and then she was snubbed when she was also submitted for House of Cards. So I think there's some confusion there, and she got left off. And I'm thinking that there will be a different kind, but maybe somewhat similar confusion this year with all the Kerry Washington and Viola Davis, being in contention for those shows this year. So instead I have Laverne Cox because, Orange is the New Black seems to still have some support from the actors.
Mm-hmm. Tom O'Brien, what do you think?
I have Diana Rigg as well. Not just for that scene, but she's also getting a boost. She got a Tony nomination. She's currently on Broadway in My Fair Lady, and she's Diana Rigg. So, of the Handmaid's Tale group, I have Samira Wylie. I think she could win, frankly. She's that good in it. And Marissa Tomei and Cherry Jones as well. I mean, they're both, an Oscar winner and a Tony winner. And Cicely Tyson, I think, is maybe on the bubble. I'm kind of unsure as to whether anybody's watching How to Get Away with Murder anymore. If I had a chance to vote, I'd vote for Pam Grier. Not necessarily for her performance at This Is Us, but I've always wanted to have the chance to vote for Pam Grier.
Well, I have got all three of those Handmaid's Tale women in. I've got Diana Rigg in, and I've got the two This Is Us women we've talked about, Pam Grier and Kate Burton. I think this is like last year with drama guest actor. I think they'll just kind of check off names in that show, especially for an Emmy favorite like Kate Burton and for somebody like Pam Grier who had a big, a death scene.
And she's a big star. I mean, she's right in the kind of like, she's like the TV Academy's like perfect kind of winner. Mm-hmm. She's, they skew a little older sometimes, no offense, but she was a movie star. Well, she was a movie star when some of these were, I'll stop. Never mind.
I will say, there's, This Is Us did submit quite a few actresses in this category, including Lena Waithe, who's an Emmy-winning writer, and Elizabeth Perkins, who plays Mandy Moore's mother. So I wonder if they can get more than just those two, or if maybe they'll kind of get all of them in. I'm looking at Rinko Kikuchi, I think would be a worthy nominee. She's an Oscar.
That would be great.
She's an Oscar-nominated actress. Jodie Balford for The Crown, playing Jackie Kennedy, is somebody who won't win. Say what?
No one who I'll wait, but I'll just say this for her and for Michael C. Hall. If they get in, good for you. Have a nice night at the ceremony. No one has ever won for playing Jackie Kennedy, or for playing JFK.
As Natalie Portman found out.
Greg Kinnear, who lost Barry Pepper.
Yeah. True. So and Laverne Cox is definitely one of those people who I could see just getting it again off of the fact that she was nominated last year for Orange is the New Black. Same thing with Cicely Tyson for How to Get Away with Murder. Margo Martindale's in this category for The Good Fight.
That's why I'm hoping she doesn't get nominated, because I don't want her to take another Emmy from Diana Rigg.
I think this is the first year that the Emmys are going to take a vacation from Margo Martindale.
Yeah.
The thing about Margo Martindale is she has contended for this performance before, but in supporting. Mm-hmm. And, even for the Americans, she can't get into supporting. So it's not a knock on her chances in this category. At Critics' Choice, where she competed in guest for this category, she won.
There's a lot of Emmy favorites in here too, and shows like Judith Light in The Good Fight, and
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis, previous Emmy winner. So I think that there could be some surprises in here. But for now, I'm going to stick with those Handmaid's Tale, This Is Us, and Game of Thrones actresses. Do we have any final thoughts before we move on to
I actually have a question. Do you think that if we see an overwhelming amount of let's say let's just say This Is Us gets 4 of these ladies in, does that maybe show more support for them? Or if they knock out maybe Marissa Tomei?
If they get more nominations in this category than The Handmaid's Tale, then I think that could definitely, signal some widespread support, because
stirring the pot. That's all I'm trying to do.
No, I think you're absolutely right, because I think that part of The Handmaid's Tale, if The Handmaid's Tale is going to win for the second year in a row, I think that they need to have an uptick in they need to exceed the nominations they got last year. And if they start, missing things that seem obvious to us, then in favor of other shows, then maybe that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
So with that, let's talk about drama guest actor, and I'll just keep this train going the way it's been. Amanda, last year, Gerald Mcraney won for This Is Us, beat out two of his co-stars, Dennis O'Hare and Brian Tyree Henry. This year, he is competing again, but he's competing against Ron Cephas Jones, who was in supporting last year for the show. He's also competing against Sylvester Stallone, playing himself.
But he's playing a very thoughtful version of himself.
I know. I love that he's in the show.
It's not like it's Ron Howard playing Ron Howard. Action.
I wish he was on the ballot for Arrested Development for How Would You Like Your Burger? So what have you got in do you think Gerald Mcraney's going to win again, Amanda, or what do you think? Who have you got in?
No, he will not win again because this category rarely repeats. I'm going to go with Ron Cephas Jones. I think there is enough goodwill for him and this character that he could do it. But who I really would like to win is either Cameron Britton.
Yes.
Who I think is like this year's breakout star.
Yes.
He scared the bejesus out of me. And then I love Matthew Goode. He's the British actor who's never really gotten his break. But he's also attached to Vanessa Kirby. And he has a really great episode. But they don't typically go British in this category also. But I like Kimmy Simpson too. This is one where I'm a little torn. I had high hopes pre The Crown that Michael C. Hall would finally get his Emmy. And then I saw this and I was like, oh, no. Not going to happen.
Riley, what do you think? Who are you predicting?
I don't think Gerald Mcraney will win again because I think Ron Cephas Jones will take too many votes, kind of like how Reggie Cathy wasn't able to win when Paul Sparks and Mahershala Ali got in. I think these are both performances that have acclaim, and Cameron Britton, I think, has also a lot of acclaim. And I would say even if Mindhunter gets no other nominations, I would still think Cameron Britton would get nominated because they started campaigning him last year, which is an odd thing to do for a guest star. But yeah, back in December, I saw a video on the Netflix YouTube that was just a collection of quotes praising Cameron Britton's performance. And they've been taking him out to the FYC events as if he's a part of the main cast, while also not including some real main cast members from the show. So he's getting a big campaign. Another one who's getting a large campaign is Matthew Goode. They're also treating him like a member of the main cast. He's all over the DVDs that voters got. It was either pictures or quotes. One of them he actually has more of than Matt Smith in the Crown FYC DVD package. And yeah, he's so tied to Vanessa Kirby. So I've got him. I've got Jimmy Simpson because he was good in this season. And also we often see where somebody gets snubbed in supporting and then they get a guest nomination, or the other way around, like Margo Martindale. I think even if they haven't seen this season of Westworld, they still saw him last season. But because I'm concerned about whether they've seen this season, I'm contemplating dropping Peter Mullen, who is excellent, and putting in F. Murray Abraham because he was only in one scene this season of Homeland. Just like Margo Martindale, he showed up in the penultimate episode, and he was being consulted about the main characters for no reason other than to get him into the show. But he's somebody that they've nominated before in guests. He's somebody who's been a main cast member before for the show. So if they just say, like, who do I like in this category, I could see him getting a lot of votes, possibly even more than Beau Bridges, who plays the vice president, just because Beau Bridges hasn't been on the show before this season.
Mm-hmm. Tom, what do you think?
I'm on the Ron Cephas Jones bandwagon too. He's just wonderful. I think that Mcraney, I love what Mcraney does on the show, but it's not that dissimilar from what he did last year, whereas Ron Cephas Jones really shows some new layers to him, and I would love it if he won. Cameron Britton's an interesting case. I really don't know whether people are actually watching Mindhunter. I believe they are, but if we're talking about major categories, we're talking about maybe David Fincher and Cameron Britton for the show. And Fincher's a household name. And for people who aren't at FYC events, who is Cameron Britton?
But Barb got in last year for Stranger Things. She's not a household name, so you know.
No, that's true. That's a very good point.
I think even if that show had not.
But this isn't Stranger Things.
Yeah, I know. I'm just, I like him so much.
I know. I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm including in my top 6, but I'm not sure I would put him third. I would probably move Matthew Goode up. And Jimmy Simpson, I agree. I think that a lot of the sentiment for Jimmy Simpson is largely due to his performance first season. He's good this year, but he's not quite as dominant as he was the last time.
I think he was probably, if we saw the vote totals amongst the Westworld men for supporting actor, he probably was second last year.
I believe you're right. I would certainly say yes.
And I think, I like that episode, frankly. So I think he's had a good year overall.
Yeah. Alan Alda for The Good Fight.
Are they watching that show?
I love Alan Alda, but that's kind of like...
yeah. But,
Hawkeye Pierce is like one of my favorite TV characters ever. So.
Yes. But if you're stuck for a 6th, he's a respectable.
I say go bold. If you're stuck for a 6th, don't just go with Alan Alda. Just look down the list. Fine.
Talk to actors. I have nothing to do with them.
You're popular. Let's look you up on IMDb.com.
Oh, you can find me. But all right.
I'm also rooting hardcore for Cameron Britton. I have him in my 6th. I would love for him to win. I think if they actually watch these submissions, then he could win. But I am going with Ron Cephas Jones right now because I feel like
this makes me sick to my stomach. We're all picking the same person. It always makes me weird.
This is so weird.
I don't know why you guys are picking him.
If we're picking him,
he was a ghost. He didn't do anything.
Listen.
A little eerie.
Ron, just so you know, if we're picking you, you're probably not going to win because we have a horrible track record with these guest actors.
We're the
also, when we were at this big of a consensus, and it's not like Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah.
That's usually a bad sign.
I think Gerald McCraney gets back in. I think Jimmy Simpson gets in. I think Matthew Goode gets in. And I definitely can see F. Murray Abraham getting nominated for that one scene. Talk to Margo Martindale if you want to talk about somebody not having enough to do.
You only need one scene. You only need one scene. Or less than 5 minutes.
But yeah, aside from that, I mean, again, there's a lot of Emmy favorites in here, like Dennis O'Hare, like Michael J. Fox, like Nathan Lane, like Richard Schiff, David Strathairn, Alan Alda. So, I mean, this could be, we could be completely off base here.
You could fill up a category with those 6.
I would like to say I am surprised that The Crown did not submit Paul Sparks because I thought he did enough in his episode, The Vergenheit, playing Billy Graham, who died this year, to get in. Personally, I was surprised they didn't submit him. Also,
I think they're being nicely strategic.
Well, and
like none of us have 2 of the men.
And just to say to The Crown, good for you for not like trying to sneak John Lithgow in here for less than 2 minutes worth of screen time. Yeah. Although, that might have got the rules changed as far as like how much time you actually need to appear in some of these episodes. But you know what? I appreciate being honorable because there are people who would have just done it if they were in the same situation if they had the best supporting actor winner last year and then he showed up for 2 minutes.
All right. Well, with that, I mean, have we got any final thoughts on these guest categories?
No, we've been doing this for 4 hours. I'm just kidding.
It's true.
All right.
Yeah.
With that,
I mean, this is it's a crapshoot. So
Yeah.
let's do your best, everybody. Good luck.
These are the categories to be bold in.
all right. Well, with that, we'll just say good luck to all the contenders until Riley Chow takes a look at your nomination. Gets you disqualified. So.
I hope so.
I say if he comes back next season, you have to write the Emmy spotlight on him.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all so much.
Oh.